Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The 7 o'clock hour is upon us to begin and commence our June 1st Board of Supervisors meeting for the County of Surry. We are so pleased this evening to have with us Elder Charles Cypress, a long-standing citizen of Surry County, to come and bless us with our invocation. Dr. Cypress.
Let us pray. Our Father and our God, we bless your name for this day, God, that you've made. We bless you, God, for your loving kindness and your tender mercies. We thank you now, God, for all things. For you said in your word, in everything give thanks. This is the will of God concerning you in Christ Jesus. Tonight, God, we bless you for being good to us, how you provided for us, for the strength, God, you've given us. And tonight, God, we thank you, God, for you've told us and instructed us to pray for all those in authority. And tonight, God, we lift, God, this, our governing body, up to you, that thou wouldest look upon them and bless them, God. Give them wisdom, give them knowledge, but above all, give them understanding. We ask, God, that thou wouldest be with us, forever keep us, and we shall give your name the praise, glory, and honor. In the name of the Lord Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank Elder Cypress for our invocation. At this time, we do call our meeting to order. And at this time, we will pause for a moment of silence. Thank you. Let's rise for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Board members, we have before us our agenda for this evening, our meeting for June the 1st. Are there any concerns with our agenda as printed before us? If there be none, we ask for a motion for the adoption of our agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we would adopt the agenda that has been presented.
Have a motion, can we have a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Our agenda has been adopted.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Cowan.
regarding the consent items, item number 10, the budget amendment for Dominion Energy Dominion Energy Grant. As everyone knows, I work for Dominion Energy, and just as an employee, as a supervisor on this board, I'd just like to commend and thank those those staff and those with Dominion to working and getting this grant to help the marketplace in their endeavors, and hopefully wish and that more communications with Dominion from the staff and board work together in hopefully producing additional grants. But I just want to say thank you to Dominion and the board and the staff for this nice grant.
Thank you, Ms. Cowan, for your consents. On item number 10 of our consent items, and the next order of business is our consent items. Board members, we have before us 11 items for consent. Are there any items that we would like to have pulled from consent for further discussion? Number one is approval of our draft minutes from our May meeting, approval of draft Board of Supervisors work session from our May 8th meeting, approval of draft Board of Supervisors hearing, our minutes from May 16th, approval of our draft Board of Supervisors special meeting on May the 18th, approval of account payables for the month of April 2023, also a proclamation that was given on June the 15th, 2023, World Elderly Abuse Awareness Day. We also have a resolution for Riverside Community Criminal Justice Board appointment. We have the National Association of Counties voting delegate, a budget amendment for the purchase of a medic unit, as Mr. Calhoun has made reference to our budget amendment from Dominion Energy Grant and a budget amendment from DJCS law enforcement equipment grant for our sheriff's department. Are there any of these items that's before us that we would like to have pulled for discussion? If there be none, we would entertain a motion for approval of our consent items.
So
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to accept the consent items as shown on our document.
Have a motion from Mr. Calhoun for approval of consent. Do we have a second?
A second.
Motion has been made in second. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Our consent items have been accepted and adopted and approved. Thank you, Board. Our second item on our agenda is a presentation from Virginia Department of Transportation, our quarterly report from Mr. Rossi Carroll.
Good afternoon, Chairman Elliott, other distinguished members of the board. It's nice to be here tonight. So I'm going to give the quarterly VDOT update. This runs from March 1st to May 31st. In that time frame, we completed 50 of 70 maintenance work orders at our local maintenance area headquarters, which was a 71% completion for those 3 months. A few highlights of the accomplishments. We've been working on site distance and mowing around guardrails, mostly in the secondary system across the county. We've cut there at Route 10 East. Welcome to the Surry sign.
Thank you.
We've been doing ender pothole patching 3 weeks over the past 3 months in the county, just trying to maintain, making sure we're not having potholes come up. We restored drainage area on Route 10 West. That's out other side of Spring Grove. Replaced some riprap, did some drainage work out there. Shoulder repairs on Route 10 East and 617 and Route 626. Shoulder repairs for the guardrail on 646 and then installed it. We repaired cross pipe and sidewalk there in the town of Dendron prior to paving operations. And we also repaired some lateral water lines as we started the paving operations in Dendrons that hopefully that will serve us for years to come. So I know that the county had a water line project in the town of Dendron, and when we go to pave it, some of those laterals started pushing. So we went ahead and got with, I guess y'all have handed it over to Sussex Service Authority and had them out there, and they gave us approval to go in and dig out the materials and backfill it, and then we went with 2 lifts of asphalt. So it should serve, that area should serve the community very well for a while. Some of the planned maintenance, cross pipe install for 608, really trying to prevent any further damage to that roadway. Shoulder work on 650 at Ellerslie Drive, that's Hog Island Road. Ditching on Route 617, Bacon's Castle Drive is planned. Secondary mowing has started. And Route 610, cross pipe replacement and chip seal. And then we're performing road and shoulder repairs on 607 and 608 ahead of the route of the Otter Dam Swamp Route 40 bridge replacement. So that would be the detour routes as we discussed in a previous meeting. We have some work out there to do to make sure that that's adequate for local detour. Asphalt paving locations for 2023. We've completed the Route 31 portion, which was there in the town of Dendron, and the section out there on Route 40 that went all the way up Spring Grove Colonial Trail. We have did Cape Seal, or really it was latex, or we'd had 2 sections that we did something called, it's sort of like a Cape Seal, but it's instead of just spraying it, we try to make sure all the cracks are sealed before we latex it, and it's called a scrub seal. So we did that on a section of Route 40 and a section 646 going into Claremont, and then covered it with latex. It seems to work out really well. The things that we're waiting for those are permanent pavement markings, and some areas on the primaries we still have to do the center rumbles and the snow plowable markers. But other than that, all the putting down asphalt, putting down latex is complete in the county. Projects, so we will start our second cycle for primary and select secondary mowing about middle of the month so that everything gets cut by the July 4th holiday. And that will be the second cycle for the county. We have the SGR bridge replacement that I alluded to earlier on Route 40 there at Otter Dam Swamp. That goes to advertisement this month. So there are some time of year restrictions with that project. It'll probably be awarded in September, but it'll probably be November before we really start to see any action going on out there. Pipelining project, they had 6 pipes. We completed that. That was out there on Holly Bush Road. That turned out really well. And we have the Smart Scale project coming up there at the intersection of Colonial Trail East and Route 617, realigning that intersection. Project advertisement is October, and construction starts in early 2024. And it is on schedule and on budget. So currently there's some utility relocations going on out there, and that's it. Land use update. So to date this year, we've done 10 plan reviews for the county. That's an increase of 2 from my last report. We've issued 28 permits for land use. That's an increase of 7 since my last report. And we have closed 5, which is 3 additional from my last report. Traffic engineering is the last subject I'm going to talk about, and that is we have a few studies that are happening out there. One is the Route 650 Hog Island Road passing zone review. It just lucked up that I received the completed study right before I came to this meeting. So just to give you a little rundown of what's going on there, this is that same section around Ellerslie Drive. So there's a passing zone there. We did a speed study out there, the 85th percentile, so that's 85% of the people are traveling 63 miles an hour. That means there's 15% traveling faster than that, but 85th% of the average is 63 miles an hour. So there is sight distance for the passing zone sight distance, but with the higher speeds, the faster you go, the more sight distance you need. We determined that we were going to close that section of passing zone through that area. With that, we're also going to try to do some tree trimming and this is future tasks, some tree trimming through that area to try to increase some sight distance as well. There's a curve in there to try to increase the sight distance. We did do a 3-year crash history for that section. There had only been 6. 3 of those 6 were animal related. 2 of them were runoff road, hit fixed object, and we kind of dove into those, and neither one of them had anything to do with the passing zone, and the 6th one was a medical emergency. So I think we're headed in the right direction there. So we got some shoulder work to do out in that section, and then once we can get it scheduled and get our contractors out, we will change that passing zone to a no passing zone. So the next one is I have doing the same thing out here on Route 10 West about a passing zone. That one is still in the study phase, so I have not gotten the data back to share with that. We are doing a Route 10 West and Route 31. We're doing 2 studies there. One, anytime there's a fatality on state highway, we perform what's called a fatal crash review. So we take the FR 300, which is the police report, and go through it, what happened, and with sort of a mixed bag of traffic engineers, civil engineers, and some maintenance staff, and look at things that possibly could be improved based off of that accident. I've gone a step further, though. I have initiated what is called an intersection safety study. So we're going to start this study, which will look at 3 years crash history. It'll look at the speeds. It'll look at all the signs. It'll look at the geometrics. It'll look at any recommendations that will increase the safety at that intersection. So they don't work concurrent. So the fatal crash review happens much faster than the safety review. But hopefully, once we complete our intersection safety review, I'll be able to share those findings with you and see if there's something that comes out of that study that we can start trying to program funding for. Because little things like signs or blinking lights or, those type of things I can handle. But if we have to, move lanes or something like that, then I'll be getting with you on trying to come up with a strategy to fund those type of things. So we also had another fatal crash on 643. We're doing a fatal crash report there as well. We have, and that's the last one. So with those, that's what's going on with that part in the county. And I'll be glad to take any comments or suggestions from the board.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Board members, are there any concerns or questions you want to raise for Mr. Carroll at this time? I get a chance to see him more often than you do on the Highway Safety Commission. So if you have something you want to speak with him now.
Yeah, I appreciate it,
Mr.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Carroll, for your presentation. I was just thinking about that, the crash that, fatal fatality on 10 and 31. I'm just thinking about the speed limit maybe being, the speed limit sign maybe being moved further down going towards Benjamin. I don't know if that's an option. I don't know if that's something that you to consider.
We'll look at all of that when we're doing the
there.
intersection safety study. So
Yeah.
when we run the speeds, and you're right, anytime you're going slower, it's less damage usually. The problem is the speed limit sign is only a speed limit sign.
Right.
So if people feel safe running a certain speed in that straightaway, let's just say the straightaway through that intersection, I could put 15 out there and they'll never run it. So that's part of this study of trying to figure out what that appropriate speed is, what is the best speed, looking at the geometrics of that intersection to make sure, we have pretty good sight distance there. You see for a mile in each direction. But just trying to figure out what's out there that we could recommend to kind of move forward to make sure that we are as safe as we can. And I'm sure there's going to probably come a recommendation out there, which is a short-term recommendation, and then there's probably going to be a long-term recommendation. People have also said something about signals there at that intersection, and I can tell you that anytime you have a signal, you have to meet certain warrants, and with any signal, it also, a signal carries some safety concerns as well. So anytime you have to stop at a signal, you get your increased rear end crashes, especially in somewhere they don't think they normally have to stop. And something that's in higher speeds like 45, 55, those type of things. So that's part of it as well, but we'll look at all of that during the study and try to come up with a recommendation that we think that that'll make some improvements.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for me.
Mr. Pierce?
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Carroll.
You're welcome.
How long do you think the study will take to review as far as the intersection of 10 and 31?
So this study here, usually I say 45 days, but it's probably going to be longer than that. It's probably going to be about 60, at least a couple months. And the reason I say that, we only have one. We don't consult a lot of these studies out. We do a lot of them in-house. And our we have a fairly large queue of studies right now. We're pushing this one up, but still with the complexity of it and the people involved, I have central office involved and the district involved, it's probably going to take a little while. So
Okay.
I'm going to say probably 60 days.
60 days. So I guess maybe your next report, your quarterly report, you'll probably have an update. for
Certainly
that.
hope to.
Okay, all right. And I guess a recommendation maybe based on your expertise. I know in the cities they have cameras at traffic lights. So sometimes those cameras may caution you. I guess we all may, when see that yellow light, some people may slow down, some people may speed up. But for those who may speed up, caution them to slow down so they won't get, I guess, one of those tickets in the mail. Would that be something to consider for that?
It's not a signalized intersection.
Okay.
And I don't expect it will be a signalized intersection, so it does not qualify.
Well, not the signal light. Well, I'm just saying, just some type of camera, I guess, to.
Yeah, you
Can do it.
can't, at a non-signalized intersection, General Assembly doesn't allow,
Just put a camera.
cameras.
All right, just asking. All right.
But,
thank
you know,
for that.
there's other options there that I've thought about, you know, we actually, in this county, there is the blinking stop signs at Burnt Mill and Hog Island. We were just talking about that. And, you know, that may be something that comes out of this study that, you know, just to, it's a dark intersection, so you kind of get lost in it. It's such a big intersection too. You kind of get lost in it, so that might be something that comes out of it. Talking about electrical blinkings, you know, capturing people's attention.
Okay.
But, I mean, there's a lot of things we're gonna look at. We'll try to come up with the best thing we can.
All right. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Carroll, did I hear you say correctly, you may be looking at the angle that the right-hand turn goes onto Route 10 from 31?
Yes, so I think we've talked about this intersection multiple times, and I believe at one time 10 was the throughput and 31 came to a stop many years ago. But that is a sort of a sweeping slip lane, I call it, not so much a ramp. And people are able to take that because it's such a sweeping lane. You can take it at high speeds, 40, 45. So when you're looking at people coming to that split, you really can't tell what direction, unless they have a signal on, what direction they're going. And one of the things that I noticed is that, so the time when I'm looking and they get to the split and the time that I check this way to see if somebody's coming the other way, and if I don't check back and don't make the right decision, I could be pulling out in front of somebody. So, you know, and that's just like motorcycle safety and everything. You got to check 3 times. I mean, you can't assume. But yes, that's part of the looking at the geometrics of it as well.
Because I know, I believe the accident we're talking about involved a motorcycle.
It did.
Motorcycle gets hidden very well behind a car, you know, so I'm just.
Certainly. And you know, we'll look at the FR 300 and try to come up with every possible solution.
I understand.
You know, we're also gonna look at the intersection and I know we had a fatality there, but we're also gonna compare it to other intersections across the state with the same type arterial crossings, just to see how unsafe it is. So I may come back and say, you know what, this intersection is not as unsafe as you think it is. So it's 2 sides of that as well, but we're gonna look at all of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carroll.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. Carroll.
well, thank you.
Fellow board members, our next order of business is a proposed animal control ordinance, a public hearing on our proposed animal control ordinance. We'll turn it over to staff at this time for presentation on this ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. Before you this evening are modifications to Chapter 12, which addresses fees and charges, specifically Section 12-4 of the Surry County Code, to modify existing fees and establish new fees relating to animals held at, surrendered to, and adopted from the county animal shelter. And we have the ordinance up on the screen for those of you tuning in at home and those of you in the audience here today. And I will just quickly summarize what the changes are. Happy to answer any specific questions before we open the public hearing. As you all are aware, the county operates an animal shelter that is under the direction of the sheriff. And that animal shelter is supported in part by various fees for adoption, surrender, for care of animals that are impounded, that are housed at the animal shelter. Back in 2008, this board established animal fees in our Surry County Code to assist in the provision of care to such animals that were being cared for by the county. The fees were last amended in 2018, so several years ago. And since that time, as we've all seen with our own needs, the costs of food, veterinary care, and other expenses associated with maintaining proper and adequate control of animals housed at the shelter has increased quite radically. These proposed fee changes will bring the fees that are charged by the Surry County Animal Shelter to a level that's comparable to fees charged by surrounding jurisdictions. And again, these changes are supported by the sheriff and the animal control officers that work at the shelter, and it will be very beneficial to them to have these increases. So in terms of the specifics, what we have done is we have parsed out the details of the ordinance to not just have one fee for all animals, but to try and account for the fact that at our shelter we have dogs, we have cats, we have livestock, we have birds, we have all kinds of animals that can come into and leave the shelter at different times. So we have modified our fees. For example, for impoundment, typical fees were $35. We have now made the fees for a companion animal $25 because we found that that was more comparable with what other jurisdictions are charging. But we have also added an impoundment fee for livestock, which before would have been that same fee for a cat or for a cow. But now the livestock fee is $50 to, again, just better account for the fees associated with caring for those animals. Then boarding and quarantine fees, again, for companion animals, it's $10. For livestock, we're proposing $25. And then fees for adoption. Our ordinance only had specific fees for dogs and cats set out. So what we've done is we have set out all of the different types of animals that we could encounter. So a canine fee is now going to be $90, a feline fee $75, large livestock $200, small livestock $30, a bird $25, an exotic bird $100, and then the catch-all other companion animals would be $50. We've also added an optional fee, and this would be if the individual who is adopting an animal from the shelter would like to get that animal microchipped. That will be a fee of $35, and that is a service that our shelter is now providing. And the last change was just a little bit of cleanup to when an individual wishes to surrender an animal to the shelter. The fee for that surrender is $25, and the reason for that is if not, people would most unfortunately just come and dump their animals at the shelter. So we want individuals to have a bit more accountability and also help support our care of that animal that is being dropped off at the shelter. Again, happy to answer any specific questions, but that kind of gives you a rundown of the proposed changes.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins, for our presentation for the adoption of the ordinance. At this time, we will open the floor up to our public. If you have comments on this adoption of the amendment to this ordinance, you may come to the podium and you have 3 minutes to speak. If you give your name and your district in which you reside, you may do so at this time.
Robert Chandler, Bacon's Castle. I find it kind of, I had no intent to say anything tonight, but when Ms. Perkins pointed out what the new adoption fees were going to be, and then she pointed out the logic behind the lower rate of dropping an animal off, it's something wrong with that balance. Why would you charge someone the charge that you are proposing to adopt an animal, are you trying to recover the cost of housing that animal for a period of time? It would make just as much sense to me that if you're gonna charge, what was it, I think $35 for a drop-off fee, why not do the same thing for an adoption to help boost the adoption rate? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chandler. Any others? If there be no one else, we will now close the public hearing, public comments, and we will now have comments from the board. If there be any, we will start with Mr. Byrd.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, prior to board comments, if I could clarify a bit why the adoption fees are proposed at the rate that they are. That adoption fee takes into account that the animal must be spayed or neutered prior to adoption. And also the fees involved in housing and keeping the animal in good health for the period of time until that animal is adopted. So that accounts for that adoption fee and that distinction between merely just dropping off an animal. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Mr. Byrd?
I have no additional comment.
Ms. Little?
I have no additional comments, and thanks to our attorney for revising those fees.
Mr. Calhoun?
I just have one question. Mrs. Perkins, can you define what a companion animal is, please?
Yes, sir. If you give me one moment to look it up, that definition actually comes directly from Virginia Code.
Okay.
Our county code says that the definitions contained in our county code cite to the Virginia Code. So if you give me just one moment, I'll be happy to look that up for you. I do not have that code section memorized.
Sorry.
No, not a problem. Companion animal means any domestic or feral dog, domestic or feral cat, non-human primate, guinea pig, hamster, rabbit not raised for human food or fiber, exotic or native animal, reptile, exotic or native bird, or any feral animal or any animal under the care, custody, or ownership of a person, or any animal that is bought, sold, traded, or bartered by any person. No agricultural animal or game species or animal actively involved in bona fide scientific or medical experimentation shall be considered a companion animal for the purpose of this chapter.
Thank you.
Mr. Pierce?
Yes, sir, Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I was going over the resolution, and I know when, I guess I'll listen to public comment as well. Just say if a citizen wanted to adopt a feline, a cat, and maybe that cat was a litter, maybe had brothers and sisters, and he or she maybe wanted to adopt more than one. Is there a way that we maybe could reduce the adoption rate if you get more than one, perhaps? Maybe get I mean, I'm just asking for the simple fact that sometimes with animals, as far as companionship, some animals like their litter mate to be companions as well. So I just, want to bring that to consideration for the board.
Mr. Chairman, from a legal standpoint, that would be permissible to have a reduced fee for multiple adoptions.
All right.
And also, I'm sorry, Mr. Pierce, I may add also that sometimes that is, again, done at the discretion other animal control officers, so I think that's something in line, and I would imagine that it's something that they have done before, recognizing that, but I do think that would be something that they would definitely consider as well.
All right. Is that, well, thank you for all of that. Is that something we may want to consider putting in writing, or is it just something we just leave in the discretion of the officers at the pound?
We certainly can put it in writing and add that, we could add some language that says, multiple adoptions, at a reduced rate, or you all tell me what you would like it to say.
Well, yeah, I would think, Chair, if I may, I would think that maybe we could have some clarification on that, seeing as if someone was to read it online, there won't be any confusion. If I were to read it and just say I heard that there were a litter of pigs that they took, and I wanted to get a few of those, $200 per hog would be quite expensive, but if I were willing to get all of them, then I would really want to see it in writing versus just like maybe not going because I don't see it in writing up here.
Certainly, I understand, and from the perspective of making changes to the ordinance, the clearer we can make it, the better for everyone.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
what would be the proposal?
Well, I would propose that we, I guess, table it until the next time we meet together, and maybe clear up maybe have some type of language up there saying that if you were to get more than one animal, that there could be a reduction rate based on whatever livestock it is, whatever animal it may be, based on the discretion of the attendee or officer at the pound.
If from an order, we will come back to the recommendation from the board, but we need to continue with the public hearing, make sure we do this in its proper order, then we can come back for recommendations from the board. Okay? That's the last comments from the board. Are there any closing remarks from our staff?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. So at this time, is there a recommendation can we get a recommendation from the board in regards to this ordinance? I will refer back to Mr. Pierce.
Thank you, Chair. I move that we table the ordinance so that we can clarify the language as far as the adoption goes for more than one animal.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved and second. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. We will table this until our July meeting, where we have the ordinance come back before us at that time. Our next order of business is going into our new business. First item is adoption of Surry County fiscal policies.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Ms. Perkins, Mr. Harrison. We do have for you tonight consideration of the fiscal policies as been presented. Mr. Morris is here and he can come forward to give the board an overview. It was mentioned during our budget process that the county would look into adapting some of the policies that were recommended by the financial advisor. So we have outlined those for you, and Mr. Morris can give just a brief summary of the policies and answer any questions that you may have.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Board. As Mrs. Rollins mentioned, our financial advisor, Davenport, came and gave a presentation a few meetings back on the fiscal policies. The fiscal policies are providing a framework for the county to make sound financial decisions, promote fiscal transparency, and to ensure compliance with prevailing local, state, and federal laws and regulations. The county's financial advisor, again, presented this, and the following categories are related to these policies: our accounting and financial reporting, budget, debt, fund balance reserves, and cash investments. Those are the main categories for the policies that were presented, and the details for these policies, I believe you all may have that already. So if we have any questions, we'll be happy to take those. Thank
you, sir. Board members, are there any questions? We have different items before us in regards to accounting and financial reporting, our budget, our debt and fund balance, as also cash and investments. Are there any questions at this time in regards to this?
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Mr. Calhoun.
the bond rating and looking at securing a bond rating, are we gonna, as staff, going to work on that very diligently and hard to get a bond rating for Surry County?
Yes, we'll be meeting with Davenport. Actually, we have a meeting tomorrow with them,
Okay.
actually. So that's one of the items that, when I talked to Mr. Locks, that he brought up. So we'll definitely be discussing that.
Thanks. Faster than I thought.
Thank you, Mr. Calhoun. Any other concerns, questions from the board? If there be no other questions, we have before us fiscal policies to take effect on tomorrow, on 2023. Can we have a motion on our fiscal policies?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adopt the Surry County fiscal policies as described, effective June 2nd, 2023.
Have a motion by Mr. Calhoun. Can we have a second?
A second.
It's been properly moved and second. If there be no further discussion, all in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The next item is our VDOT 6-year secondary road improvement plan.
Good evening, Chairman Elliott, members of the board, Ms. Rollins, Mr. Harrison, Ms. Perkins. Tonight, before we have, as part of our regular business, our 6-year improvement plan. As you all may remember in the past, it has been a public hearing. We were notified by VDOT that if your amount is under $100,000 per year, you don't have to do a public hearing. So at this time, it's under regular business. So the VDOT is seeking a resolution. As you may recall last year, for those of you that were here, when the 6-year improvement plan was approved, there were some changes. Some of those changes were that it would be Bank Street and Church Street. It was switched over from Moonlight Road to Bank Street to cover for sidewalks. That was changed due to the fact that it was costing about $2 million for that project, and we've seen it. It was reviewed by our Highway Safety Transportation Committee that we could actually achieve some projects, considering the amounts that we receive per year is about $18,000. And so at this time, we do have before you a resolution to pass to VDOT. Before you have the notes of how the allocations per year and the project amount for that project. And the 6-year improvement plan is about $615,000 for that project for Bank Street and Church Street for sidewalks. And you do have some other elements there as well, but those are the main project that we have to cover in Surry.
What was the figure again you just gave?
Which one? 615,000? Yes, sir. And Mr. Carroll is here too. If you all do have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Board members, are there any questions in regards to the presentation given by Mr. Wade? We do have in our packet the resolution that states that VDOT 6-year secondary road improvement plan for the year 24 through 29, whereas section 33-1-23 and 33-1-23.4 of the 1950 Code of Virginia as amended provides the opportunity for each county to work with the Virginia Department of Transportation in developing a secondary 6-year plan. Whereas the board has previously agreed to assist in the operation of this plan in accordance with the Virginia Department of Transportation policies and procedures. Whereas Mr. Rossi Carroll, Williamsburg Residential Administrator, Virginia Department of Transportation, appeared before the board and recommend approval of the 6-year plan for secondary roads in the construction priority list for Surry County. Now therefore be it resolved that since said plan appears to be in the best interest of the secondary road system of Surry County, the citizens residing on the secondary system said secondary six-year plan, fiscal year 24 through 29 is hereby approved. That is a resolution that presented to us on tonight. Board members, if there are no other questions for Mr. Wade on this matter, as we've gone around the table, could we have a motion on the six-year plan?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. If we have $615,000 in the bank,
As I'm looking at that schedule, that's how much the project's gonna cost. What they currently have allocated, let me see, let me go back to that figure myself. I was just there with you. There is, that figure about, let me see, I'm still looking at the piece what you're talking about there, but the figure amount, the 615,000 is how much it's gonna cost for that whole project. I think we're about halfway there in allocations. So it would take until, I think it's 2033, if we're looking at $18,000 per year. There are other ways to get there for the different funding mechanisms, but there might be a question that you might have for Mr. Carroll.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So we started this project last year, created a UPC, put together an estimate for the project. We looked at everything. So we're in the pre-scoping phase right now of this project. So I don't know if you can see this clearly, but this is Government Center. So we're looking at the sidewalks in front of the Government Center, the older section, in front of the Government Center, all of Bank Street, and back to this point to make one continuous. So with this, that estimate also includes replacing driveways that may be impacted, any utility relocations that may have happened, moving poles, those type of things. We won't know that exactly until we actually get into our scoping phase. So when we put an estimate together like this, it's a high-level estimate looking at worst-case scenarios. So as we get closer to getting into the preliminary engineering for the project, that estimate's going to be refined. That estimate may reduce. I don't expect it to go up because when we do an estimate like that, we look at worst-case scenarios, looking at right-of-way, utilities, and the scope of the project. So that is the initial estimate, and that can change as the project develops.
so are there any other fundings? I'm just thinking 2033 as if we continue on.
2033 based on the 600 and some thousand. So if that comes down, right now, there is currently 111,000 previous funds in this project.
Oh, okay.
17,927, I think, is this year's. And then if you look at the next 5 years, that totals another 89. So you're at 219 by 29. Project may end up, well, I hate to really say with inflation, but let's just see where the project ends up. However, there are other options. You can always do something like a rev share to bridge the gap, and that's a 50-50 between the county and the state. And then there's also TA, which is called Transportation Alternative, being that it's using pedestrian facilities. If it qualifies, it's a federal program, but it's an 80-20. So 80 for the federal program, 20 for the county.
I'm sorry, Mr. Carroll, can you clarify that if we can use the 6-year program funds as our 50% match?
You cannot, because this is, that's totally different. The rev share piece is not, you're gonna have to come up with a 50% of whatever you borrow, per se, or request to fill the gap, because if you start using this money, then you're not actually getting anywhere.
Okay, I just want to clear some.
So, board members, I don't know, how you feel. We've had this project for quite a while.
Yes.
And I don't know if we can find any funding to maybe perhaps do the 80-20 or the other sharing, so we won't have to wait so long. And it is needed in the area, so around the complex. So I just would like for the board to, and staff, to look into those, types of funding? You know, that we just don't say, okay, we're gonna wait until we, can build up this $615,000 at whatever.
If I could make a suggestion, I would say yes, and I agree to that. But I would wait until we have a more refined estimate to actually see what that gap is, before we'd made any actions on applications. Because it'd be hard to set up an application not knowing exactly what we're asking for.
Understood, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Little. Thank you, Ms. Little. Are there any other concerns from board members?
A question, Mr. Chair. if I may.
Ms. Pierce?
I may have missed it, but I do apologize, but when would you get that refined estimate possibly?
So, right now, like I said, there's 111,000, based off the 2029. The schedule, we probably wouldn't go to actually PE phase until something like 2026, 2027.
Okay.
However, we still do, we have a funding source ourselves, where we do what's called pre-scoping estimates, and go out and to figure out how much right-of-way is going to be impacted, how many utilities are going to be impacted. And so before we actually get into preliminary engineering phase, we're going to have a fairly good estimate that we will have to refine once we start doing design. You know, once we get into design, then once we lock in a scoping, we're locked into that price. I mean, that's the money that we can get based off of that scoping estimate. Right now, we're in pre-scoping, so it can fluctuate. We can change the scope at this point. So this entitles all that sidewalk. We may say, to make it a little cheaper, that we're not going to touch the existing sidewalk and just build where the sidewalk's missing. You know, that's part of that pre-scoping, that we can actually adjust the project to fit what maybe we can build.
Thank you for that.
So, Mr. Chair, Mr. Collier, you're going to work on that, right?
That's what I do, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Board members, we do have the resolution before us for recommendation from the staff for the approval of the 6-year plan. If there are no other questions, the chair would entertain a motion in regards to the 6-year plan.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we would move forward with the approval of the 6-year plan.
Have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. No other discussions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. Next item on our agenda is our county administrator's report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the first report tonight is going to be from the Economic Development Department. We're going to ask Ms. Renee Chaplin to come forth and provide the board and the citizens with an update economic development. Ms. Chaplin.
Good evening, Chairman Elliott, members of the board, Ms. Rollins, Ms. Perkins, Mr. Harrison. Certainly appreciate your time this evening. I think yes. And I believe this is going to be live where we can actually see this on the screen for the folks that are tuning in as well. Okay. Well, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to come and talk with you about the progress of our store. It's been an exciting project, and I tell you, the front page here just makes me hungry looking at it, because right now we don't have a lot of opportunity to get the fresh fruits and vegetables and the good foods and the nutritious foods that all of us should be eating. All of you well know about the project and how it all started. Surry County being designated as a food desert and not having the availability to get these types of products here in the area has been a challenge for a lot of years. And we had an old building that has a lot of history behind it, a completely different use as a store that was not for food products, and of course food safety and a lot of protocols that goes in with building a grocery store. We've had to overcome some of those challenges. Lots of surprises in the building. I think there's an old picture here that I'm showing. Oh, I've got to. Okay, here we go. I didn't actually need this. We've got this here. This is great. So in this next picture, you'll see an older picture of some of the trenching that had to be done in this very, very deep base of concrete there. So again, trying to address the concern that many of the residents had, and hopefully this is going to be something that everyone is going to be able to patronize and find the products and food that we need. It'll certainly make life much more convenient. So here we are. This is today. I wanted to go through and just kind of show you each area. It looks much different than what many of you have history of this particular store and have been inside many, many times for the other uses. Sheetrock is sheetrock, but boy, what it took to get here. Obviously, you can see we have a lot of supplies and things still in the way. We're moving forward, but of course, this is an area that is one of the inventories and area, because you can imagine, you know, you'll have a fork truck that will have to be moving inventory around. So there will be some areas here that's going to have 3 to 4 feet high of plywood in front of the sheetrock for, you know, to keep from damaging back in the storage areas here. This particular room is the employee break room. Of course, they're talking 16 to 17 employees would be a part of this particular store, and this will be finished out as an employee seating area with some speakers and things that would give the employees ability to plug in and listen to some of their iPods and videos that come in that would be streaming. Of course, it will be fully wired. The store will be fully wired with the broadband for all of the cash registers, operations, and for people to use. This next slide, if you're looking at the hallway going down, the back door would be to your left. Many of you are familiar with the layout of the store. And the reason it's not closed up on the ceiling, the electric is currently now being installed. And all of this, that will be one of the final things, because you have to go in and it's inspected, and our building inspector will make sure that everything is done to code, and then the close up will go much faster. But as you can see on the left and right, you've got a variation of rooms there that will be used for storage. You've got dry storage, refrigeration, freezer space, all of those things. This is going to be the hot kitchen area. The hot kitchen area, of course, is going to have your grill, your fryers, the types of things that will come into play for some of the hot foods that will be made available here at the store. And the next slide here, again, this is one of the side rooms that we saw from the long hallway for storage and miscellaneous. And again, you can see some of the wiring and cabling that's going in. That will be one of the very last things for the closure of the ceiling there. Restroom 1. You see the tile going in. This is very current. This is as of today, and of course the beautiful tile at the bottom. You can't see it quite yet because the grout has not been installed in the bottom, but that is what is taking place this week and last week, and of course the wall tiles and all of the plumb and everything has been done, and the fixtures and toilets and sinks and all of that will go in after the tile and everything is completely installed and dry. And this is restroom 2. So it will have 2 restrooms available for the facility, and hopefully in the next, probably in the next week, you will see that these will be closer to finish. A lot of the fixtures and things are en route. And one of the things that we've really ran into with an old store, everything has to be custom fit because nothing is a standard size. So with customization, you run into supply chain issues, and many of the specialty items, and we'll talk about that in a minute, has taken longer. They've been ordered for months, but again, the supply chain issues are continuing to make some delays on specific products that we've ordered. And this is the stairwell that goes up to the loft area, and we'll have pictures of that in just a moment, but the stairs have been completed. The insulation, this is a picture from far back of the, some of the mechanicals here, and would be possibly some additional light storage here. Some ductwork that you'll see that has gone in this area as well, and you see on the bottom right, that's where the stairwell will come up. Here's just a different picture with a different lighting. Okay. This is one of the challenges we ran into. There was so many layers of flooring that was there, and it took a couple of different types of machinery to get down to this bare concrete, which is where we are today. There has been a sealant applied, but the flooring has been removed. All of the, there was a lot of matter and glue and build up on the floors that had to be got up. This was quite a effort to get this floor back to where it is with the concrete. And those boarded up doors. I know a lot of you see that and you drive by and it really looks like nothing's going on, but that is one of the biggest things that we've had trouble with it's been ordered for months and months, but it is a fully custom door. It's an automatic slider door, just like at any grocery store. And because of that, it is having to be manufactured, and it is underway right now. We did get a update on that, and basically it's going to be at least another 5 to 6 weeks before that door is in. But it actually is one of the last things that would go in, because there's some very large equipment that's being brought in, and we wouldn't want the door there anyway. We certainly don't want to damage anything we've waited this long to get, so we want to be very cautious about that. But this is the view from the kind of at the front door area, the main store, shelving, refrigeration, equipment coming soon. This is the area that will have all of the shelving for the products that are going to be brought in. All of that is waiting to be brought in, just because, again, the process of the flooring and curing and all of that. The front sliding door, I've addressed that a little bit, but here's a picture of that, and you will see where the doors are going to be, and just to the left is where the cash register area is going to be, and I will have a better picture of that coming up here in just a moment. And you'll see all the paint work is done as well on the walls. They have got that. It's very bright and white, and a lot of that is going to be covered up with refrigeration and the type of freezers, the tall freezers that are going to be covering the walls. I think originally we were going to go with a wheat color, but because of the darkness of the building, making sure that with all of the lighting, and the white really just brightens things up. This would be the front of the store as you actually come in through the door, and you would turn and look to the right. You'll see the bank style system of registers here, and I have a better picture of that here as well coming up. So on the end away from the door, you'll see the customer service area, and going down towards the middle and the point that's coming out at the banks there, that is going to be the handicap section. And of course, that will be the ADA compliant for anyone that would need that. This is it's a long gated room. This originally had shelving on all of the walls with hundreds and hundreds of cans and different hardware that actually came with the building, and it was hard to see the vision. But after it was all cleaned out, the walls, everything was gutted. It was just down to the cinder blocks, and then now, of course, it's been fixed as an office, and you've got some desk in there. And this, of course, would be for your managers and stuff to go in and work with the cash registers and balancing drawers and whatever paperwork that has to be done there. And this is the hallway to the overflow. And when I say the overflow, there's a lot happening in the back because you have inventory, you have trucks coming in, bringing the food. Again, you may have the lift trucks that would be moving things around. So this is what I would refer to as kind of an overflow area, not the actual store where customers would patronize. And this is the back entrance hallway, kind of in a different position, and inventory corridor. Again, having the ability to go through with lift trucks, and this is where some of the this is the plywood leaning up against the wall here that will be cut and fit to the walls so that you wouldn't have any damage that would come in as the trucks would move forward to bring in the products. Just another picture of the main floor of the store from a little bit different direction, and you see the paper that is down here. That's covering up because of the sealant. Just want to give that time to cure so you won't see as much going on for a couple of days because of that sealant that has to dry over the next, well, it's probably dry now. These pictures were actually taken yesterday, so I'm sure things are ready. And this here ultimately is going to be the walk-in freezer space. There's a lot of things that's had to be sealed up. I don't know that many of you, even we've talked about this, but even in the front of the building, it was discovered that a car had hit the building at some point, and the blocks had to be cut out. It was kind of a safety issue too, and it was the structure, the integrity of the structure could be challenged by those blocks being damaged and pushed in. So all of that was cut out and repaired. This is being sealed up, and this will be the build out of the actual walk-in freezer. And it's a fairly nice size room, but again, there'll be a lot of different types of opportunities to bring in things and take advantage of the freezer space. This is when you come in through the back door. A lot of you don't see that because this is not street side, but there will be a roll-up door. All of the back door right now, there's a glass door, but there's going to be a roll-up door there that will actually roll up for entry and exit of different boxes and things being loaded and unloaded. It's just a loading zone. That's exactly what it will be. And I want to thank each of you. I hope this gives you a little idea. I know some of you have stopped in and seen what's going on. I'm happy to answer any questions. I have this one picture of the outside because this will go quickly, the outside, but right now, you know, it's got to be, the parking lot's got to be resurfaced. There's got to be lot lines for parking, handicap spaces, cleaned and landscaped. There is some areas there that's been damaged on the left-hand side with the yard. Things have been dug up, but there'll be some nice shrubs, and it'll look very pristine and neat once the inside is done. But right now you've got so many people coming in and out and different equipment. They've got to get all the equipment in, so it's kind of smart to wait. Let's get where we need to be before we do that. But that will be soon. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Chaplin, for the report on the marketplace in Surry. Board members, are there any questions for Ms. Chaplin? I know that I had an opportunity to see it maybe about 2 months ago, and there's a lot of progress has been made since that time. So I do commend all who are working to get this done. Are there questions or concerns from the board members for Ms. Chaplin?
I have a question, Chair, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Pierce.
Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Renee. Just a question, looking at this picture right here, where would the guest loading dock be for when they bring in materials and produce and stuff?
Okay, so if you look at the front of the store,
Yes, ma'am.
and if you're facing the store on the left-hand side, they will take a left at the light. They will go down that road and take a right. There's going to be and the concrete truck is coming next week. There's a dock going in there and the roll-up door, so they will actually back into that area to load and unload.
Okay. So right here, if I'm looking at it, if I'm correct, right here on the left-hand side?
Old side.
Oh, side furniture. Okay, got you. All right.
Yes.
listening to the studies and everything with VDOT, would that interfere with traffic, I guess, when they back up or anything? Has that been looked into?
Well, it has not been evaluated as of this moment because we don't know what the traffic's going to be. And again, a store this size, it's not going to be something that's going to be multiple trucks
Okay.
daily. I really, I can't see transfer trucks coming. I think it's going to be box trucks.
Box trucks?
Box
Okay.
trucks.
Okay.
So, I think, at this current time, we have, the convenience market there on the corner. The types of trucks that deliver to that is more like the box trucks and the drink trucks and things like that. It'll be very similar to that.
Okay, I can see that. All right, thank you for that.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Ms. Chapman, Chairman Elliott said he had a walkabout through the marketplace. I was wondering if it's available for other board members at some point in time?
Sure, and it was just happenstance, I think, that I think it was just open and you happened to go by.
Yes.
And it was somebody there to do that. I don't see anything wrong with that at all. We have to be careful because there was no work going on at the time. It is a work zone, and we are supposed to have, and we always do, have hard hats and all the appropriate equipment to make sure that we are okay and in compliance with standards.
And contact you if that's, if I'd like to go see it?
Myself,
Will
yes,
do.
yes,
Mr. Harrison?
yes, sir.
And then the biggest question, is there an estimated opening date?
I knew you were gonna do that.
That was my question too.
Well, there is. We would like, and it's, it's not spring. We would like to hand off the keys to operations sometime in late July, early August. And I say that, I'm sorry. We would like to hand off the keys for operations late July or August. And the reason for that is that's kind of the timeline that we have discovered on the door, that we would be able to have that in. And the delays are just a couple of the items dealing with the electrical panel and this custom door. Again, the customization has created a problem because nothing in this building is a standard size of anything today. It's all custom. It drives the cost up. Of course, with inflation, what it is in the last 3 years with construction cost, it's crazy. The average home now, if you get a home built, it's about $300 a square foot in some areas with, and that's a premium built kitchen with nice appliances and things. And, the construction cost of a store is much higher than it would have been even 5 years ago. But having everything custom fit and having it special made has not been our friend.
And one further question, in the pictures, I didn't see any of the equipment that was acquired with the county's grant?
No, it is actually in a warehouse in Richmond. We have an inventory accounting of that with serial numbers and all of that. And it couldn't be brought in because of the floor. Flooring's got to be done. But that is very close to happening because all of that needs to be done before the doors go in. And again, as we wait for the doors, we're trying to do things simultaneously so things are moving along. But again, over the last couple of weeks, when you're doing the floors and putting that sticky epoxy on it, it has to dry and has to sit, and it's not quite as productive as we'd like. But they are still working kind of in the back, getting all that done. Plus the sheetrock, I know many of you know the process on that. When you're doing the sheetrock, you can hang it, but you can't, you gotta get it dry, you gotta finish and sand and get all that to get a nice finish on that as well, so.
Thank you for your presentation and answering my questions.
Oh, you're welcome, Mr. Calhoun, thank you.
Any other comments, board members?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Lowe?
Ms. Chaplin, wonderful job. Thank you so much. We see the progress, and we waited this long. I'm sure we won't, we'll be still here prayerfully in a couple of months. We're looking forward to it.
Yes, ma'am. We will have a store, and we will all have a store that we will be very proud of, and I look forward, because I've heard some good things about some good recipes and some of that hot food. It'll be great. Thank you so very much. Appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Chapman.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank Thank you, Ms. Chaplin. It is good to be excited about a economic development update such as that. So we are very pleased with the progress that has been made with the local market project that everybody is so excited about. So we will remain excited, okay? Another exciting report we have next, I'm going to ask Mr. Phelps to come forth, Director of Chief of Emergency Management, along with Ms. Kelly Coons, to come forth and give us an update on our radio communication system project, which is, again, a very exciting time for this. Sheriff Turner, who's also instrumental in this process, is doing double duty out, so he may have some comments later on. As to you, Mr. Chairman, who had the opportunity to participate most recently with the progress on this project. So, Mr. Phelps.
Good evening, Chairman, board members, Ms. Rollins, Ms. Harrison, Ms. Perkins, and citizens of Surry. Let me find my presentation up here real quick. There we go. And thank you, Mr. DeLon. Okay, so this evening what we're here to do is we're here to present you with an update of the Surry County Radio Project. Things are moving along well. Currently, right now, we're at about 60% complete, so things are right on schedule. Recent milestones have included the lease acquisition agreement, which was completed, and what that does is that allows us to move forward with our Cabin Point Tower site. We're putting a building out there, and so that lease agreement had to be signed first before the construction process could start. So they'll be starting that shortly. And that building will house a great deal of our radio equipment. Along with that building comes, it has its own generator and fuel source as well. Other recent milestones that we've completed is the staging has been completed. Surry sent a portion of our radio team to Chicago to participate in the staging of the Surry County radio system. The Surry team included Terry Forehand, which is our consultant from Federal Engineering, Mr. Elliott, Director of Emergency Management, Sheriff Carlos Turner, and Kelly Coons with Communications Manager. And I'm going to let Kelly take over, explain to you what happened at the staging area in Chicago.
Good evening, Chairman Elliott, members of the board. So we went to Chicago last week for the exciting staging of our new radio communication system. And we worked with Motorola on approximately 55 tests to challenge the system, ranging from basic operations to multiple system failures. We were also able to determine how easy it's going to be to operate the new system, and there's triple redundancy in this system. So all of that was exercised, and it proved to be extremely fault tolerant. And while we were there, we were able to take a tour of the Motorola production facility, which is approximately 33,000 square foot building where they build all of the products from scratch. Everything in the facility is made to order, and they have a rigorous testing with that to ensure the quality of their product. They had a really good operation there, and quality was apparent. We also worked with the Unified Event Manager, which is a software that's basically like a live health system for the radio system. You can see the health of your system in real time. You can see what's going on with it, if there's any channels down, if there's any site failures, anything like that. And we also discussed, it opened the door for us to have discussions about what we want in the system. And things that we may need that we didn't realize before we actually got to go in and put our hands on it and test everything. The acceptance testing was completed during this time, and again, all 55 tests passed with flying colors. We were very excited about that. And again, it opened up some doors for us to have conversation in regards to the fleet mapping that's going to have to take place. So we learned a lot on this trip, and the equipment has been approved, and everything is going to be packed up and shipped here to Virginia and ready for installation.
Awesome. It's okay, Ms. Little, you can clap.
So some of the next steps, what we're doing is, like Kelly mentioned a few minutes ago, is the fleet mapping review, which is basically the components of the radios, including IDs and talk groups, talk group structures of the radios and more. So that's one of the next milestones that we're going to be working on. The order of subscribers. The subscribers is what each individual radio is. So that fleet mapping is where we determine what's going to go into each of those radios. We have different needs for different, with having law enforcement, fire, EMS, as well as our public works will also be equipped, and so will our school systems. So some of the things that these are is like with our school systems, what we're doing is we're having GPS put into all the school buses so that if there is an event, we're able to track those events through communications through the dispatcher. They'll be able to pull up, if we have a missing bus, they'll be able to pull up where the missing bus is. So those are things that we were looking at, future things that we can do to prevent future problems. A microwave and MPLS, which is a multi-protocol label switching. It's basically a router is what that is. It's how we route the calls, or how the system will route the calls. And acceptance test, that's going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, the week of June, the last week of June. So we're going to be heading back out. A team of us will go down to Charlotte and review the microwave acceptance in the MPLS. And they're going to start construction. They're finalizing with the agreement now that they have that, the lease agreement. So they'll start the construction of Cabin Point. So like I said before, we're still on schedule for our coverage testing to be at the end of September before we start to lose foliage in October. So things are going well. So, all right, thank you.
All right, yes, all right then.
I would just like to add that we did have an opportunity to work with the actual equipment that's going to be shipped here. And I had an opportunity to see Ms. Coons operate the equipment, and jokingly, I told her I learned so much I could be a part-time dispatcher now, but jokingly.
Yeah.
But I think this is a investment for the county, especially dealing with the safety of our officers, to make sure we have coverage over the whole county and to bring us up to date in our emergency services. So thanks again for the opportunity.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Phelps, and thank you, Ms. Coons and Mr. Elliott. And again, very exciting time for Surry, and we do want to also say that I believe we're on schedule with our budget with that project as well, right, Mr. Phelps? So not a lot of change orders. We're right on budget. So we are pleased with our project manager, who's helping us with that, and that was Federal Engineering, and you all approved that agreement, so they're doing a great job for us as well. And again, thanks so much for the team taking the time out to go to Chicago and bring back that exciting report. So thank you all so very much for all that you're doing through your daily work and also helping us to get this project to fruition. Thank you so much. Okay. Next, I'm going to ask Parks and Recreation Director, Mr. Rollins, to come forth. And after Mr. Rollins, board members, we do have representatives in the audience who are going to sponsor the Juneteenth events for Surry County. So we're going to ask them to come forth after Mr. Rollins' presentation.
Good evening, Dr. Elliott, board members, Mr. Harrison, Mrs. Rollins, Mrs. Perkins, everyone assembled. It's a great pleasure to be here this evening to give you an update on what's happening at Parks and Recreation. If I may, before we get to the main topic, which is the 4th of July celebration, we have, and as Mrs. Rollins stated, we have the Juneteenth Festival, which will take place on June 17th of this year. I won't speak in detail, as we have a couple of representatives who will speak on that event.
and that event will be from 11 a.m. till 7 p.m. On June 22nd, we have an event, Senior Advocate Agent Expo, Senior Agent Expo, which will be held at Parks and Recreation. That event will be from 9 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. We will be partnering with the Department of Social Services and the Department of Youth and Family Resources for this event. There will be presenters, exhibitors, door prizes, and the Senior Advocate organization is an organization which empowers seniors to live healthy and productive lives and allows older professionals to be as knowledgeable as possible about local services as well as healthcare initiatives. Also on June 23rd, the following Friday, we will be sponsoring, again, partnering with the Department of Social Services and the Department of Youth and Family Resources. We'll be having senior movie night. And that particular event will be an event that's geared towards our seniors. It's actually something that we are encouraging senior population and their relatives or friends or associates to bring a senior to this event. The gates will open at 7 o'clock, and the movie will start promptly at 8 o'clock. The next event, we started this event actually on May 22nd, and this event is called Coffee, Conversations, and Donuts. This is another event geared towards our population of 55 and over. We are, as you all know, a growing community with a population of 55 and over, and so we're trying to provide programs and activities geared towards our aging population so that they don't get lost in the shuffle. And this is an event that's we are geared towards the population for socialization as well as being able to fellowship. We provide games and activities, of course, breakfast portions, juice, coffee, and just conversation that they have not had the opportunity to have since, of course, COVID has taken place. But this is an opportunity. Again, I say we started this on the 22nd, and it will happen every Monday moving forward from 9:30 a.m. till 11:30 a.m. And we look forward. We had a very good turnout on that first Monday on the 22nd. We had 19 participants, and it was a very good success. On June 26th will be the kickoff of our summer camp. We are partnering with Surry County Public School System to put on our summer camp this year. That will run a 5-week period from June 26th through July 28th. And again, we will be partnering with the Surry County Public Schools. Although it is a, I'm trying to think of the best way to put this, it will be scaled back somewhat this year because we had to think outside of the box. We had to make some adjustments in our availability of resources. However, I look forward to this being a long-standing partnership with the public school system, and we will be able to expand this moving forward. But this is a great opportunity for us to partner. You know, we all serve the same group of kids, and so rather than compete, we partner and make it very successful. And we're hoping for, and I'm praying and hoping that this will be the beginning of a long-standing relationship, and I believe it will be. We've had great cooperation from Dr. Sims, Mr. Wooden, and the administrative staff for the school systems, and so we're looking forward to this opportunity. Now, our annual fireworks celebration, and this is something that we're really looking forward to. We had a really good turnout on last year, and we're expecting an even greater turnout this year. This will be held on Monday, July 3rd, and the gates will open at 4 p.m. Entertainment will start at 4:30 p.m. We have submitted our application to display fireworks to our emergency services director, and we will be
having all of the activities there. The fireworks will be provided by Gibson Fireworks Pyrotechnic Company out of Titusville, Pennsylvania. They did an outstanding job on last year, and we're looking forward to them doing an even better job this year. We also will be having live music, which will start at 4:30 p.m., as well as informational craft, food and food truck vendors, musical chairs, other activities for kids and adults alike. So we're looking for a grand time. I've already spoken with Sheriff Turner, and he has assured us that we will have ample security for this event. And in the event that we potentially run short-staffed, that we've reached out to some of the surrounding localities to provide extra security, as well as the state police. Fire and rescue will be on the premises as well. And so we're looking forward to this event being very successful. We had a really large turnout last year, and I expect that we will have an even larger turnout. We have fairs for a varied array of people that we're expecting to attend, and so we're looking forward to that activity. And also, we're continuing with our daily and weekly activities, including our meetings, of course, classes that we have, our exercise classes, our step, fit classes, other indoor activities, such as our 55 and up lift classes and chair yoga classes, which have been well attended, as well as some of the other opportunities that we have for our public. And so we are very enthusiastic about what we have coming up and what's been happening at Parks and Recreation. I would also like to add that we will be adding our annual summer part-time help for our dock hand and kayak assistants. We've gotten into that season where we're going to need to onboard those personnel, and so that should be happening within the next couple of weeks. So at this time, I'm happy to entertain any questions or comments from the board.
Board members? Mr. Byrd?
Thank you, Mr. Rollins, for your detailed report, and looking forward to the upcoming activities. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rollins. You know I'm participating in a lot of those Senior Plus programs.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Calhoun?
Thank you for your presentation. I have no other comments at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Pierce?
Thank you, Mr. Rollins. If in a way I can help out with the summer youth program, just please reach out to me. Thank you for all your hard work. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir, for all that you do for the county.
Thank you.
God bless you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Rollins. Look, I see my former band director back there. I want to get out some pom-poms, yeah? For all this exciting stuff. So we do have the representative, if we can give them about 5 minutes to come forth, Ms. Roxanne Markshears and Ms. Sophia Pierce. They're going to talk briefly about the celebration, Juneteenth celebration, and we are pleased that we do have an organization that is willing to work with the community to have this event for the community. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Chairman Elliott, board members. It is a pleasure for us to be here this evening. My name is Sophia Pierce, and I serve as the Executive Director for the organization. Our organization is called United to Empower. And basically, I want to say, first off, thank you, Ms. Rollins, for allowing us this time to come before the board to address the board and the citizens tonight. We do have some flyers, and I don't know if you want flyers before or after, but we have flyers that we would share tonight with you all, as well as to all those who are assembled. So not to be long, but we do want to just to share briefly with you all a little bit of the details that of the Juneteenth Festival. This is the second annual festival that we are presenting this year, being sponsored by United to Empower. Along with the Surry County African American Heritage Society. The Juneteenth event, well, United to Empower is a community-based organization which serves Surry County, Sussex, Southampton, Prince George, Alawite, might be missing one or two, and the surrounding counties. And we actually, our mission is to educate, to enhance, and empower young people and the communities that we serve. And so one of our initiatives for the last 2 years has been to host a Juneteenth festival, which is made possible with collaboration from the community partners. We have faith-based organizations, local organizations, civic social groups who are supporting this event. This year, the event will be held on Saturday, June 17th, of course, as I said, at the Parks and Rec in the rear of the park. Somewhat similar to the 4th of July event, but one of our main focuses is that we want to expand upon the history of the African American culture, and what we also aim to do is to involve and engage our young people in the celebration. So we're trying to pull together a diverse group of people. This event is open to the public. We don't want people to think that it's just for one specific group. It's open to the public. We will have food, vendors and trucks. We have right now about 30-some vendors that will be participating with us this year. Kids activities, and we have voter registration that will be held, as well as a men health screening. I'm not going to go too in depth on that because Mr. Fauntleroy will share a little bit about that. But I do want to allow my chairperson, Ms. Roxanne, to expand just briefly on a little bit of the event as well.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and County Board. Again, thank you again for allowing us to speak tonight. We're hearing a lot of excitement across the county with a lot of the activities that are going on. And United to Empower is extraordinarily excited about this event. It's most important to our community. We have a collaboration with our Historical Society in Surry County, which is going to help us to bring forth a lot of rich, robust history from our county. So this is not just a good time, but it's a party with a purpose. And so we're looking very forward to this. And one of the things that we want to also elaborate on is that this is a promotion of living a healthy and life, and then also promoting collaboration within the community. So I'm not going to belabor, because I'd like for Mr. Fauntleroy to come up and speak about one of the elements of the activities that we are going to have going on, which is most important specifically to men in our community. As you all are aware, there are a lot of disparities that go on in the rural communities, and what we like to do is start to promote and enhance and educate our community on how to be healthy and how to stay healthy. Without further ado, I'm going to present Mr. Fauntleroy so that he can let you know about our activity that we're doing for men.
I just have one quick question. Mr. Fauntleroy has signed up for public comments?
Same thing.
Okay.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Most of you all know me. I think I have 4 of my former students on the board. But anyway, June has been designated National Men's Health Month. And I'm really excited about this project that we've been working on before the pandemic, and we couldn't get it. It's about encouraging men to take care of their bodies by eating right, exercising, and getting regular doctor's checkups to prevent diseases. The American Cancer Society, Riverside Hospital, EVMS, will sponsor a free prostate cancer early detection event on Saturday, June 17, 2023, at the Surry Parks and Recreation Center, starting at 9 o'clock. And this will lead into Juneteenth, but we're going to be there early because we want to get these men, all the men to come out for the presentation. Local sponsors of the event are United to Empower and Mount Nebo Baptist Church. All men 40 and over are invited to attend this life-saving event. Prostate cancer is the second leading cancer killer of men. Prostate cancer can be cured with early detection, and that is why this event is being held. The invitation is also open to women of the men attending. so they can get information about this deadly prostate disease. This event includes a presentation on prostate cancer and awareness and education by a team of doctors from Riverside Hospital. Prostate cancer can be cured when detected and treated early. After the presentation, a question and answer period. Any of the participants can ask questions to the doctors, and you get an answer from them. After the presentation section, there will be a free PSA test or DRE exam for any men who are attending if they desire. This is free. If you go to the doctor, it's going to cost you big bucks, but this is free. There will also be resource material on the tables about early detection of prostate cancer. I have some flyers that will be posted on, but I have some for you all. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
For me to the board members. And I will have some flyers for anybody in the audience. And this is free to the public, and we need to get these men checked. I'm a prostate cancer survivor, and I want, by early detection, we can cure this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions?
Any questions or comments that you'd like for us before we sit down?
I do have a comment. I thank you all for the presentation. It's going to be a grand event and one that is humanity-driven. But I would be remiss if I did not mention Mr. George Fauntleroy. He has just undergone 2 brain surgeries, but he's still here tonight concerned about his fellow man. So we thank God for him. And I am one of his former students.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, again, thank you so much again for that. And this is right in line with the mission of the community as well, and all the unity and collaboration that this event brings. It's great. I'm not going to be before you long in terms of my report on tonight, but the pom-poms and the celebrations continue. Today is June 1st, and I'm not sure whether or not all the board members know the significance of June 1st, but June 1st marks the 3rd year in which you all elected me to serve in the official capacity as your county administrator. So I am elated, and it's my pleasure to serve. I just wanted to share that. And board members, when I think about what has transpired for the last 3 years, it has been tremendous amount of work that under your leadership and under the leadership of prior elected officials, and with Mr. Harrison and with all the team members who are assembled, a lot has been accomplished in the 3 years. So I remain excited about the future of Surry County. I cannot help but to say that when I took the interim position in January 2020, following Mr. Lynn's departure, obviously we was hit with COVID at that time. So the first 18 months of this administration, we was certainly focusing on COVID. And as I stated before, the county did an outstanding job working with our team leads here and working with all to bring the county through a very difficult time during that first 18 months while still maintaining all the other operations of the county. I cannot go without saying that, again, I'm very proud of Team Surry. I see a lot of our team members here tonight, and what has been accomplished in the 3 years, we can certainly be proud of. I think we have created an excellent narrative for the community, for you board members, and also for the citizens to be able to say all that we have accomplished over the last 3 years. Mr. Harrison works very diligently with our team members as well, and we really do work hard for the betterment of Surry County. I cannot help for outlining just a few of these things because I think it's just important. You know, I think we have to take some time to kind of celebrate some of the accolades and for you all to be shared with your constituents. And these are the things that are moving Surry County, has helped to move Surry County in a very positive light. So I cannot say this enough, but after decades of trying it, Mrs. Little, board members, you all know that universal broadband has been accomplished in Surry County. And we're gonna be working with Mr. May Chaplain, who's gonna be working with us because we need to better brand the community for that. This is accomplishment that we have to be proud of and celebrate. We are the only county in the state of Virginia that has achieved this destination, and it is worth celebrating, and we have to do that. Okay. Broadband in Surry County, of course, was made possible by staff taking the time to submit a grant application to the state. So we received that $2.25 million. The board and your commitment committed $2.25 million towards that. So we are very proud of that. On top of that, we actually was the first time that the county ever submitted an award to the state for an award. It was with this broadband partnership with Dominion and Prince George Electric Co-op. So we have that under our belt as a proud accolade for you all board members and the community as well. We had visits from our Governor Northern back at the time, and the late Congressman McKeechin gave the county high accolades about what they saw happening in small rural Surry County. So again, very proud of those accomplishments. After decades of talking about it, you all just heard the report from Mr. Phelps and that team that the mobile radio communication system project is underway and will be here. We are 60% complete. Congratulations, Surry County, on that endeavor as well. Board members and citizens, we completed the Emergency Operations and Volunteer Rescue Squad Facility project and moved an entire E911 communication system during the pandemic without a hitch. Who does that? Congratulations, Surry County. We also signed off on completion of the Dendron Water System project, bringing fresh, clean, and quality water sources to about 160 residents in the town of Dendron during the pandemic, within 3 years. After years of talking about it, we took the necessary leap of faith by implementing the financial software system upgrade project to replace our 1999 system. And our team, our finance team, our Director of Information Technology are working sweat and tears to make sure that we get that project going, and they're doing a fine job. So congratulations again, Team Surry, on those endeavors. I'm sure you all have been hearing about the issues with our animal shelter. We completed that renovation within these 3 years, so we do have an animal shelter that we are very proud of, and we do not have any issues as far as inspections that we are aware of with the State Health Department, so we have checked that off of our box. Also, I can say that we worked on, Mr. Harrison worked with getting Grace Creek as a scenic river designation, and won accolades from our Delegate Brewer and the State Department of Conservation and Recreation for making this happen. The Marina Walking Trail was made possible via a grant that the county received from DCR, about $74,000 towards that. So again, we try our best to go out, Mr. Harrison, for these grant funds to make sure that we are saving the citizens' tax dollars by writing these grants for the community. I'm not sure whether or not all the board members were aware, but I remember one of the first things we also had to tackle, and I was scared to death, when we had to remove those leaking storage tanks. I remember I sent you all pictures that had been under the ground since the government center was built. That was a huge initiative and accomplishment, and we checked that off of our box without a hitch, so we're very excited about that as well. We also received that $3.2 million in a federal grant from Donna McKeechin. It was one out of 10 communities that competed for that grant, and we competed with large communities such as Chesterfield to improve the water capacity, enhance economic development opportunities. So again, we have been working very diligently, and we're excited that we was able to get that again within the 3 years since we have been working together. After years in the making, you have heard about it, we are making, again, the ways to get fresh food access to the community. When we first got here, board members who was talking about this, broadband was the #1, food access for #2. We're working it out. We're trying to check the box off of both of those. So we're excited about that. The grant that was mentioned earlier that was received from Dominion Energy, $62,500, a $125,000 commitment. That was just one of a total of $641,000 that the county has got in grants totally for that Fresh Food Access Project.
Yes.
Give our team a hand. We have collaborated with the town of Surry to bring quality water to the citizens along Davistown Road that have been using bottled water for decades and were faced with poor water quality. We continue to appreciate and develop the partnerships and relationships with the town of Surry, our mayor, Mr. Savage, and the town council for the betterment of one Surry County. How about working with Claremont? We have gotten that MOU to make sure that we are working with the town of Claremont for the betterment of the town in terms of all the environmental issues that they have to deal with. So we are real pleased that we have gotten that MOU with the town of Claremont. Economic development, business attraction. We are looking forward, Ms. Chaplin, to that Mexican restaurant coming to the town of Surry. It's going to come. So again, that is something that we also worked hard at, and we are proud to bring new businesses to this community. I cannot say that our solid waste site improvements, enhancements have never looked better. We have our team in the back who have worked diligently. And despite the negative complaints, I can say that they get, and the treatment from some of our citizens, I have to put it out there, they do a fine job. Customer service has improved. Our site's looking better. Thank you, Mr. Moore, and your team for doing a fine job. We appreciate that. Our county grounds have never looked better. We thank Mr. Rollins and his teams who are doing a fine job making sure that the grounds of Surry County, for the many buildings that we have to work to make sure they're improved, are looking spectacular for our employees and for our citizens. When our roofs at the government center and the courthouse had those leak issues, we worked very diligently to make sure those things were taken care of. We came to the board, gave you all the complete picture. We did some patchwork. We told you it was not going to last forever, but we still was able to get that done. We have our MOU with our Sheriff's Department for our animal control operations. How many complaints did we receive relating to animal control operations? I don't receive those anymore. So we're real excited that we have the MOU with our Sheriff Department for our increased efficiency and operations to our animal control operations. Our MOU with the Sheriff for our dispatch services to enhance service delivery has exceeded our expectations. They're doing a fine job. We have dispatchers that are EMD certified, CPR certified, doing a very fine job in dispatch communications operations. We are working strategically and innovatively to provide rescue services in an age where volunteerism is not as possible as before. Cannot talk enough about our countywide technology improvements in government operations and public service safety, overseen by a dedicated and professional team member who has brought our internal systems to the 21st century. And everybody knows that Mr. Brown does a fine job for the community, so we appreciate all of that he has done for our community. Give him a hand also. And not to mention, there are numerous other things, and I will certainly give you all a copy of this report. At this time, I also want to mention the acquisition of the prime real estate offer 460, the Graydon property, was forward-thinking. That was a strategic move to help foster needed economic development in the county. Kudos to you, board members, for making that decision. We also have completed the sale of the Surry Seafood Restaurant after years, making it a destination place for residents in the county, and all the surrounding amenities that everyone can continue to enjoy. We implemented the internship program with Dominion for our kids, and we are collaborated with Surry County High School on that initiative. We are working on our blighted properties. We have Mr. Westheimer here, who is giving us an award-winning shared services inspection program that we're taking all the way to Texas in September for a presentation. Congratulations, Mr. Westheimer. So, as demonstrated, we have gone above and sometimes beyond, because that's what we do as public service, to provide resources, opportunities, and wins for the county that we all can be very, very proud of. And at this time, I would like Mr. Harrison to to stand and help me with recognizing all of our team members who are here. We have Ms. Pierce from Social Services, who has done a fine job in making sure that our seniors are taken care of in the community with the feeding programs. So Mr. Harrison, if we can ask all of our team members to please stand and give you all a resounding applause for all that you have done within the 3 years. Thank you so much. And we rocked the vote during the pandemic. Didn't forget about you. There's a whole lot of things we've done that's not included here, so we appreciate you as also Ms. White. And that's all I have, board members, is one other thing. You know, board members and citizens, when we talk about the spirit and unity of Surry County, I had the opportunity this weekend to attend a family reunion here in Surry County. And, you know, my roots date back, from what I've learned, back to 1750. You know, but my grandmother, I learned, was born in 1913. And she, my father passed when she was just 3 years old. But the relevance of this is learning about the history of family and being a part of that family union process sort of kind of makes you feel, and all the activities that were done really brought back the spirit and the unity. And I just want to share as families celebrate this summer, because summer is a time where families are getting together in the community to have their family reunions. I know that Mr. Rollins, your book at Parks and Recreation is booked with a lot of families and celebrate. So we just would like to continue to have that spirit of unity and togetherness in the community. And that's what makes us a better place. I know we have always talked about what it's going to take to build a better Surry. So that spirit of community and family is so important, and it was really nice to be a part of that celebration and see how we can just let our hair down sometime and just have a great time and just celebrate Surry and celebrate family. So I just want to encourage those who are listening to please enjoy your summer. We're looking forward to having everyone at all these activities that are being provided for the citizens of this community. So again, thank you, board members, for your support. We appreciate all that you all do, your guidance, and we just appreciate your support. So again, thank you very much. Okay? That concludes my report tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Rollins, for your report, and I think the board will join in with me in wishing you a happy anniversary, and we look forward to continue doing work here in the county of Surry. Board members, we have before us, our next order of business is our LGIP investment letter that is before you in the amount of $18,470,970.11. And also we have our reports, our Blackwater Regional Library Director's Report and the Building Officials Report, which is in your agenda packet. At this time, are there any questions on the reports? If there be none, we will open up our public comments, and we ask that you would come to the podium. We have 3 minutes to address the board, and our first person who signed up for public comments is Ms. Nancy Rodriguez.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Surry County Board of Supervisors. My name is Nancy Rodriguez, and I live in the Spring Grove District. I would like to begin by thanking you and the county staff for listening to the citizens of Surry County. I know that the 71-cent rate is not what the citizens were hoping for, but neither is it what the board and the county administration were hoping for. It is a compromise, which is also known as democracy. What this process has done is woken up the citizens to the plight of the county. Having sat through several budget meetings and having studied the Davenport financial report, it is clear that Surry County is in need of broadening its tax base. We all agree that the county needs new job opportunities, affordable housing, and a reason for our youth to stay. The citizens and the county must work together to change the trajectory of the county. So board members, county staff, and citizens of Surry County. Here are some suggestions on how we can work together. First, here are 2 packets, which I believe you've given out, on current business opportunities in Surry. The first packet comes from Rain MSL, Hampton Roads. These current listings are made available to prospective businesses looking for properties. The most important one, in my opinion, is Saving Farmer Joe's. The owners have done a fabulous job, but they are ready to retire. Surry County cannot afford another Surry House restaurant situation. I hope that the county would consider placing all these business opportunities on their economic development website and ask that my fellow citizens in the audience help spread the word on the business sites. The second packet of business opportunities are offered on the Surry Economic Development site, but not on the Rain MSL Hampton Roads site. I would ask that the county broaden their advertisement of the sites by using MLS sites throughout the Commonwealth. Also, I ask that the county update the site with current contact information. Tonight is a good beginning for all of us to start listening and helping to save Surry County and broaden its tax base. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you. Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Next is Mr. Mike Eggleston.
Mike Eggleston, Denver and Blackwater District. I listened to the budget presentations and I heard about places to play, but I didn't hear about places to work. We have an industrial park with 1 business after 15 years, and we're still working on the fire protection for it. Don't we ever get anything right the first time? Instead of throwing money at it, we need to start governing, and that's your purview, to start governing instead of throwing money at projects. That grocery store looks like a lot of work. How much county money is in it over the grants? And have you done a study to see if it can compete with Food Line in Smithfield and Wakefield grocery store? I mean, do you have enough rooftops in Surry County to support it? Part of the problem with having places to play is people need a place to work and raise a family. They're not going to come from another county with the same amenities and come here to play and then go back home again. How does that broaden your tax base? You need to broaden your tax base, and that's not done by places to play. Thank you.
Mr. Robert Chandler.
Robert Chandler, Bacon's Castle District. Good evening, Chair, Ms. Vice Chair, and other board members. Thank you for your service. I have a couple of comments I'd like to make. First, I am very disappointed with the road agreement. Since we've lived here on Moonlight Road, this is the second major upgrade that has been canceled on Moonlight Road to do something else with it. Do you guys have any idea how many homes are on Moonlight Road in Surry County nowadays? A lot. That didn't used to be here 30 plus years ago when we moved to Surry. That road is in desperate need of repair. And we canceled a project to build sidewalks. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but thank you. Second thing, Ms. Perkins, PETA does animals free. They spade and neuter animals, dogs and cats free. My wife used to work with them on their bus in this county and several counties. They might want to look into, see what they might do for the animal shelter. Marketplace, thank you for the update. I hope it comes off. I've been inside of that building several times while I was on the EDA when we were looking at doing something there. And there was a massive amount of work that needed to be done. The only other thing I have to say, I agree 100% with Ms. Rodriguez's comments. The county needs places for people to use and work. One of the most difficult things for this county, from my perspective, having been on the EDA and other things associated with that, is affordable housing. I'm going to a meeting on Monday night in Virginia Beach that's associated with the use, the need, how to, and so forth about affordable housing. This is sponsored with American Veterans Vote, and I'm part of that organization. But we need to be using our EDA much more along those lines. The Economic Development Authority has more power for funding usage than the county does, but we've not used it properly for as long as I've lived in this county. Thank you very much.
We have Ms. Sophia Pierce. I don't know if she wanted to speak again. Was it? Okay. And Ms. Roxanne Shears, same. And that will be the end of our public comments. So at this time, are there any comments from board members? We'll first start with Mr. Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank Ms. Rollins, Mr. Harrison, and staff for the positive things that are taking place here in Surry County. And we look forward to the future accomplishments that we plan to see. Also want to thank all the citizens that came forward to address their concerns and all the great things that we heard tonight regarding the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Fauntleroy, Ms. Spears. I don't want to omit anyone, but I just want to thank you all for sharing the things that are taking place here in Surry County. And I want to thank all the staff members who are working hard and providing services to our citizens. And I want to thank all the citizens for their comments as well. So hope everyone has a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd. Ms. Little?
Thanks to everyone. Your comments have been heard, and we appreciate them. Some positive and some not so positive. But, you know, you don't solve every issue overnight, so it gives us still things that we will need to work upon. But we're so happy that in the 3 years that we've had Ms. Rollins with us, that we have moved some mountains here in Surry County, and we appreciate that. And our other staff also, because we have almost a totally new staff. And they are doing excellent for Surry County, and we want all of our employees to know that we appreciate you, the new ones and the old ones. We appreciate everybody. And VDOT has been doing a great job. We're trying to keep our roadways safe and things in the roads in good condition. And Moonlight Road has been an issue for a long time. It's a road that goes back to colonial period. But I would say this is not Surry's fault that Moonlight Road has not been fixed. It's probably not the state, it's probably not the federal. But unless you have the funds and VDOT supports it, it does not happen. The project that is happening at Bacon's Castle was also and is a project that needed to be done. So many lives have been lost right there on that curve. So we're moving forward, we're not moving backwards. And I think that that is one of the great things about what's happening in Surry County. And so, you know, I'm just very appreciative and thank God for all that he's doing. And thank my board members for all the support that they've been giving the staff, as well as, you know, all of each of one of ourselves. And the grocery store, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. When you looked at that store before this happened, oh my gosh, it's now a palace, is what I have to say about that grocery store. So Ms. Chaplin, and the administration moving forward with that grocery store. And Ms. Chaplin is Ms. Chaplin worked on our broadband project. She's a jewel. She is a jewel to Surry County also, and we give her thanks. Mr. Wade, he keeps us out of trouble with our planning. The sheriff keeps us out of trouble, and our new house inspector, right? So, you know, things are moving. Mr. Rollins, everyone, just thank you so much. And UTE, and then with the waste sites, the citizens are so proud of our waste sites now. So thank you. So anyway, and I don't want to forget Mr. Phelps, and I think he sneaked out. But that emergency, what we have now for emergency services, I remember when we didn't, I mean, we were right here where Mr. Calkins was. And now we have this facility that we can say we can be proud of. We have one right now unit, but the other one is on its way. So these things cost money, but the thing is, staff has leveraged a lot of grant money. So, you know, we need to say, to God be the glory for those grant funds. Because if we had to take your tax dollars, 1 cent is worth $300 and some dollars.
Yes.
Okay, but we've gotten grants for over $1 million. So that saves Surry County. So yes, we do have things that still need to be done, and we're still going to work on those projects. So thank you, everyone. I don't know if there's anything else I need to say.
Thank you, Ms. Little. Mr. Calhoun?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to say also thank you for the staff for what they do for this county and for assisting the supervisors, including Ms. Rollins, Mr. Harrison, Ms. Perkins, and all the others. I appreciate and learned a lot today from all the presentations. Ms. Chapman on the marketplace, Mr. Phelps and Ms. Coons on the radio communications, and Mr. Rawlings on the Parks and Rec. We have a lot of activities coming up this month, and I'm sure you're going to be extremely, extremely busy. I'd like to thank Ms. Rodriguez, Mr. Eggleston, and Mr. Chandler on their comments this evening. And I'm looking forward to July the 3rd for the fireworks. We sure do appreciate that. And I wish you all a great evening this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Calhoun. Mr. Pierce?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I would like to thank everyone who's at home watching us as well. Thank you, Ms. Rollins and staff, for all your hard work and due diligence, and happy anniversary to you as well, Ms. Rollins. Keep up the good work. I would be, I guess, remiss if I do not shout out Social Services, Ms. Valerie Pierce, for their their feeding on this past Sunday. My family and I helped out in the rain, but we were able to feed close to 300 seniors on this past Sunday. So even in the rain, they were all lined up and everything. So thank you for her and her staff for all of that. I also want to bring attention and awareness that, you know, June 1st is, of course, the start of summer for most, but it's also hurricane season. So I encourage, you know, citizens to do your due diligence as far as preparing yourselves for things that we may not be able to control, which is Mother Nature. So, you know, if you can, get your waters. If COVID haven't taught us anything, you know, we want to make sure we be prepared for anything to happen. But other than that, I just want to continue to encourage everyone to let's be great citizens for our great community. Hearing these past 3 years, all the accolades that our community has, there's a lot of things to be proud about in Surry County. I try to encourage my students that I teach that Surry County has a lot to offer if we really just sit back and realize the things that we already have here to build up on. And I think we have really been doing a great job at that as far as the staff, the elected officials, but mostly important, the citizens that are out here in our community that keeps encouraging and supporting us and doing our due diligence as far as our jobs. So continue to support us. Continue to come into our meetings. I love having more community engagement. I really believe in that. We are one Surry County, so it takes us as a community to keep pushing Surry County forward, like Ms. Little said. We want to keep pushing forward. So again, thank you for everyone to come out tonight, and have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. I would like to say ditto to all of the comments given by the board members, and just want to thank staff for working so hard and so diligently over the past 3 years that we've been together. It was a difficult time. A lot of people may have been expecting some things that did not get accomplished, but remember, we were in a pandemic, and a lot of times we were meeting virtually, but we still were able to move the county forward. That's a very impressive list that was given tonight of the things that happened in a pandemic. And I truly believe that the board that's present now has the best interest for Surry County at heart. So I just want to congratulate everybody for the work that we put in, and let us continue to strive to do what is best to make Surry the best county it can be. So I just thank everybody for all that you have done. And before we go into closed session, Sheriff Turner has someone he wants to present to the county on tonight.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
I just wanted to introduce our newest deputy who started today. Yes. This is Desmond Edmond. He actually relocated here to serve from New York. So he had been watching and following us on Facebook, the Sheriff's Office, and seeing the wonderful things we've been doing in the community, and impelled him to want to come and join the Sheriff's Office here in Surry. He's moving down from New York with his 2 daughters. One of his daughters enrolled at Virginia State University, and so she'll be starting there. So you want to say anything?
I look forward to working for the county, and Sheriff didn't mention, but I also turned 40 today. So.
Oh, his birthday today. Yes.
Welcome. Welcome to the county.
Welcome. What's your name again?
Desmond Edmond.
Desmond Edmonds. Yeah. Good to meet you. I drive a black Cadillac.
So yes, he was an officer. Like I say, he was an officer in New York, and he will have to start. Be starting the police academy in July, and so he'll be back out with us in December. So we welcome him on board.
Very, very good. Welcome to Surry County.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. At this time, we're going to ask Ms. Perkins if she would give us our ordinance for going to closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Closed section.
Your motion required today is to convene a closed session pursuant to 1, Virginia Code Section 2.2, 3711A.1, to discuss salaries of elected officials and appointments to the Board of Historic and Architectural Review. And number 2, Virginia Code Section 2.2, 3711A.3, to discuss and consider the acquisition of real property for use as government offices where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the county. And I will need a motion and a second and a roll call vote.
Do you have a motion for closed session?
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Byrd?
Yes.
Ms. Little?
Yes.
Mr. Calhoun?
Yes.
Mr. Pierce?
Yes.
I vote yes. We will now be adjourned to closed session. Ms. Perkins to bring us back in from closed session according to state code.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution certifying closed session. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Surry County has convened a closed session on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote made in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2 3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the Board of Supervisors of Surry County that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Surry County hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed session to which this certification resolution applies. And 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the Board of Supervisors of Surry County. And I will need a motion and a second and a roll call vote.
Board members, could we have a motion to return from closed session according to Virginia State Code?
I move that we return from closed session according to Virginia State Code.
Do you have a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. We have a roll call vote. Mr. Byrd?
Yes.
Ms. Little?
Yes.
Mr. Calhoun?
Yes.
Mr. Pierce?
Yes.
I vote yes. Back in open session. Again, we refer to Ms. Perkins.
Mr. Chairman, pursuant to discussions in closed session, there are 2 matters that require action by the board in open session. The first is seeking the appointment of a Mr. Bruce Wobster, who is an architect, to the Surry County Board of Historic and Architectural Review. This board requires that members meet certain requirements, and currently we have a vacancy for an individual who is a licensed architect or architectural historian. Mr. Wobster meets those qualifications, and Director of Planning and Community Development, Mr. Wade, has requested the board appoint Mr. Wobster.
And that is the Board of Architectural Review?
The Board of Historic and
Historical.
Architectural Review. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Board members, you've heard the appointment, the request for appointment. Could we have a motion on Mr. Bruce Wobster?
I move that we approve the appointment of Mr. Bruce Wobster for the Architectural
Historical
Architectural
Board.
Board.
We have a motion. Have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion on this appointment? If there be none, we have a vote. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Mr. Wapner, it's been approved for the Board of Historical Architectural Review. Next matter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pursuant to Virginia Code 15.2, 14.2, salaries, each year, the board, prior to July 1st, has to have a vote on whether to increase whether to increase the salary of its members, whether to have that salary remain static. This is a change that typically in the past has only occurred on an election year, which this year it just so happens it is an election year. However, there was a change by the General Assembly in 2022 requiring that this discussion and a vote is required occur every year. Any change that is voted on by the board this evening will not take effect until after the November election on January 1st, 2024, when new board members have been elected, and although some of you certainly are running for re-election, so it could be some of the same, but the salary, any change to the salary will not impact through the end of calendar year 2023. Any change will not take effect until January 1st of 2024. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but again, a vote is required.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Are there any questions, additional questions, Ms. Perkins, in regards to the salaries of the Board of Supervisors for Surry County? If there be none, we would ask Ms. Perkins to read us the resolution in regards to the salaries of the board members
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
for a vote.
Resolution of the Board of Supervisors. Whereas the members of Surry County Board of Supervisors currently receive an annual salary of $6,000 for their service on the board, and the chairman receives an annual salary of $7,000 for their service on the board. Whereas the current salary was established in June of 2019. Whereas Virginia Code Section 15.2.14.14.2 authorizes the Board of Supervisors to vote to increase board salaries prior to July 1st of every year. And whereas all seats on the board are up for election this November with terms to begin in 2024. And whereas any change would not take effect until until January 1st of 2024. And whereas the Board of Supervisors desires to increase board member salaries, with such increase to apply after the elections this November and to become effective on January 1st of 2024. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to Virginia Code Section 15.2.14.14.2, the Surry County Board of Supervisors hereby votes to increase board member salaries beginning on January 1st, 2024. The chair shall receive an annual salary of $8,500, and the other board members shall receive an annual salary of $7,500.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Are there any questions for Ms. Perkins in regards to the resolution? If there be no questions, we would entertain a motion in regards to the resolution as presented to the board for the increase of salaries for the board members.
I move that we approve the upgraded salary for the Board of Supervisors of beginning 2024.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
It has been properly moved in second. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion is carried. If there be no other business that draw our attention tonight, we will be adjourned until our July meeting, which is July, have the date? July 6th at 7 p.m. back here in the courthouse. Could we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Ms. Little moved.